It's the Gear Tester here, and welcome to my initial impressions video on the SureFire Scout Light. This is the M600 version. And I purchased this light to be a weapons mounted light on firearms for home defense purposes. I really like SureFire, and I have purchased a number of their lights over the years, and all of them can continue to run, and they have always worked well for me. And that's why when I was thinking about having a dedicated weapons mounted light for an AR-15 or other defensive rifle, that I thought, you know what, I think I'm going to go with the SureFire Scout Light. It's not a cheap light. Costs the better part of $300, around $260 for this light. That is a pretty big investment. But $250 or $260 actually isn't that much money if it prevents you from doing something stupid with your firearm. Right? The reason we put lights on a firearm is so we'd be able to identify targets or identify threats. And that thing that goes bump in the night and that you're groggy and not paying attention and you get out of bed and you get your weapon and, you know, whatever happens, happens. It would be nice to be able to identify that the person standing in the hallway is not a knife-wielding maniac, but that is your grandchild or your child's boyfriend who is there, right? Your daughter's boyfriend who's in the hallway that shouldn't be there. He's trying to sneak out or trying to sneak in, but he is not a lethal threat. You might want to shoot him, but it is unwise and would be wrong to take that person's life, even if they shouldn't be there. But it would also be nice to be able to identify whether that thing in their hand is a knife, a cell phone, a handgun, okay? And a light is a component that needs to be on a defensive firearm. You need to have lights, particularly on your long guns, because you cannot manipulate a long gun and have a light. That's not going to work well. There might be ways you can do that, but it's not like a pistol, right? So you need a light on, you need dedicated lights on your long guns that you're going to be using for home defense, okay? I'm actually going to be returning this Scout Light to Midway USA. That's one of the reasons I purchased from them. They do an excellent job on returns because I have encountered one problem with it. And it's not that the light is defective, it's that this light has 500 lumens. It's the M600 version of the Scout Light. It's long like this. They have another Scout Light that's shorter, the Mini Scout Light I think they call it. And that's the one which I'll be getting to replace this light. They're the same price. The M600 version has 500 lumens. And I have a home that has a very light interior. And so when I turn the light on, it is blinding. Okay, 500 lumens is a lot of lumens inside the confines of your home, particularly when it has a light painted interior, white or beige, all right? So it bounces that light back, and it's kind of hard, especially if you're up close to a wall or you're coming around a corner and that light is bouncing back in. 500 lumens is a lot. Also, and this is lights are going to be bright, right? That's why we have them. But because I have a red dot, this aim point mounted on this firearm, and I want to be able to use this as a package together, what ends up happening is for me to be able to see the dot, okay, once I turn 500 lumens on inside a dark room with light walls, it means that I have to have the brightness setting up basically all the way on this SureFire light. SureFire red dot. I'm sorry, aim point. I've probably been calling it SureFire. This is an aim point Comp M4S, a red dot. So what the problem is if I have my red dot, okay, if I have the brightness setting all the way up, and then I turn my light on, the 500 lumens, I can see it. But if my home already had some lights on, let's say I've gone to bed, but I've left the light on in the porch, or there's lights on outside, or I have left a light on in the kitchen, I could still be able to see. I might not have to turn the light on. People who might be ransacking my home, or it might just be someone like maybe a relative or a friend that you forgot was there, right? Sometimes that happens. You wake up, you hear something go bang in the night, you're worried, you're scared, and you forget that, somebody's in your house, that it's okay for them to be in your house, and maybe they have the light on already. Okay, maybe they're watching television, maybe they're doing something. I would prefer to not walk around shining this light at them. But I would also like to be able to perceive both my iron sights and my red dot if I need to defend myself without turning the light on to give myself away. And so the 500 lumens, and this is the reason I'm setting this light back, is too much for inside the confines of my home. And I should have paid closer attention to that. And so in this initial impressions video, I hope you're probably clicking on this to research whether you want to buy the M600 Scout light. And I need you to think about how you're going to use it. I'd like you to not have to do what I'm doing, all the work of buying and then returning and then, you know, the whole time and energy that gets spent up in that. If you're going to use this light on your firearm primarily indoors, and I think that's primarily what law-abiding citizens need to be thinking about, marching around with a rifle outside your home late at night is probably not a wise thing to do. You probably are going to want the M300 that has 300 lumens rather than the M600. Okay, it's also smaller, it's a little bit lighter, but primarily it's the lumen count that is a little too high for me personally. That way, I can have my red dot down, okay, because if the red dot is all the way up and there's already some kind of interior lights or lights coming into my home, or maybe it's dusk or dawn, if I have the red dot at its highest setting, it flares. I can't see my iron sights, okay, and I can't see this. But unless I turn the light on, okay, and even then now I'm dealing with all the brightness. So what I want to be able to do is have a lower lumen light mounted on the gun, so that my brightness setting on my red dot can be lower, so that if I need to defend myself, I am not requiring the use of the light if there is low light or already light in on my home. I'm not struggling with trying to change all the brightness settings on everything while I'm trying to make sure that my home is not being assaulted, attacked, robbed, etc. Okay? So setting up a rifle or a shotgun that's going to allow you to manipulate it correctly and do things, I'm trying to minimize everything that I'm having to moment by moment be altering and changing, which means lower lumens on the flashlight, which allows me to have a lower setting on the red dot, which allows me less adjustment for a wider range of settings inside my home of natural light or no light. And I'm not fighting the huge amount of lumens. So that's why I'm sending this light back. That long-winded discussion right there. Okay, I want to give you guys a little historical look at SureFire lights that I have owned over the years. And I'm going to line these up in the order which I have purchased them. And the first light that I purchased, my first SureFire, I purchased over 6.5 years ago. And I know that. It's this one here. It's the SureFire G2 LED. And it was the first time that I became aware that SureFire was producing LED lights, and I decided that I needed one when I realized that they were making LED lights, because I really didn't want to have this high lumen light that was like blowing bulbs all the time, and I just didn't understand the value of a good quality light. So I purchased about 6.5 years ago. I know it was 6.5 years ago because I dropped it. Okay, I dropped it there in Disneyland, and I think I'd actually bought it on that trip, and I had it in my pocket. I certainly did not have it on the gun, right? And I had it in my pocket, and it dropped out, and I damaged the end there of the light. Lights always work fine. The only thing I've had to do is add additional batteries to it over the years as it ran out. But it's mounted on a Benelli M2 Tactical. This is another home defense tool, which I have for personal protection inside my home. And I have it mounted here in an LZ light mount. But the point is I paid, I think, about $120 for this light. I actually bought it at an REI, and it is still running perfectly fine. Okay, and the prices on these other lights have dropped. These two here. This is the next light that I bought. I like this one so much, but I wanted a lower brightness setting for doing tasks like reading, looking at maps, you know, any number of things. I take these lights on with me when I go on backpacking trips, camping trips, etc. And I basically exclusively shifted over for handheld lights to SureFire. I have some headlamps from Petzl and different companies, but SureFire is what I use for handheld lights. So I wanted the 15 lumens to be able to do things like read on the G2X Pro, and then I wanted the higher lumen count with the secondary click. Okay, to be able to see, is that a bear, you know, searching for people, trying to find your way back to the trail, etc., or whether that's just day-to-day tasks. Okay, so this is an older G2X Pro. It actually has 200 lumens. Okay, the brightest setting is 200. This is 15, and the 200 lumens is like 2 hours, and the 15 is like something close to 40 hours. This is a newer G2X Pro, and this thing, keep in mind, right, I paid over $120 for this 6.5 years ago. This is now the newer version of the G2X Pro. Okay, it has the lower light setting, 15 lumens, and it has 300 lumens. And this will cost you right now about $65 shipped to your home. That is a terrific amount of lighting that is in a handheld package. You're going to get like an hour and a half out of the brightest setting. It's going to dim, of course, during that, but you know, you're going to start out with the 320 lumens, and then you're going to get something like 40 hours on that setting. An amazing light. Consider it. This Lumimax LX2 has been my EDC. I have carried it every day for the better part of 5 months, and I love it. It is currently out of production. I actually bought it off eBay for a very, like $200. It was ridiculous, but I wanted it because of the form factor. It is smaller, has 15 lumens, and it has then 200 lumens if you push down all the way. It does not have a click. Okay, it is only a pressure switch, and you can actually screw that pressure switch, like all these lights, screw it out, and then you're unable to activate the light. However, on the, it's still working, on the Lumimax, screwing it all the way out almost means just a little bit more and it could fall off. So I actually never used that on the Lumimax. Haven't had a problem with the switch on, okay, going on all the time. On this, both the G2X LED, G2 LED and this one, if you want them on like all the way on all the time, you actually screw them down, okay? And so you can do the 15 lumens. I can screw it on the G2 Pro. I'm sorry, on this Lumimax LX2, screw it all the way down. It got 15 lumens, a little bit more, and then I get the 200 lumens. So that's having it all the way on, that you're not having to apply pressure. But I really like the pressure switch. It's very useful to just be able to look at something, boom, have those lumens. It's very useful to carry it every day, and I've used it on many occasions. And then we're back to the SureFire Scout Light, which will be replaced soon with the SureFire M600 Mini Scout Light. Okay, and so I just want you to consider lights, particularly, you know, and I assume that if you're looking at SureFire lights and particularly wanting information on the M600 Scout Light, that you're thinking about weapons-mounted lights, okay? And when we start talking about lights for self-defense, to be able to see what's going on, for serious things like emergency, backpacking, camping, trying to change tires on your car, things like this, want the best flashlight that money can buy, and it has to be reliable, and SureFire has always been reliable for me, okay? SureFire is what I trust my life to. This is the light which my wife carries inside her purse, and it sits on her bedside stand. This light sits permanently on my bedside stand by mine. This is mounted on a firearm, which I have access to in my bedroom, and then this is in my pants pocket, okay, or available to me. So I've surrounded myself with high quality lights, and again, $60 is not that much for one of these G2X Pros. I have friends that purchase any number of lights, some of them more expensive than the ones here. They've stayed away from SureFire, and I don't understand why they do that. Because they want lights that have like all these different, a million little clicks. You know, they want it to do SOS, they want it to do this. I think that is stupid. The reason I started buying flashlights, the reason I bought this one originally is it was simple. I don't want some light that has some computer system in it that I can kind of click, 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 and you click 5 times, you click 3 times, and now it just does 2 settings. But if somebody accidentally does that, then it's back to strobing and all this stuff. SureFire is simple. And that's what I value most about SureFire. Is that they have, you know, one setting like this, 15 lumens for 45 hours or something like that, then boom, when I need to see what's going on, when I'm trying to find things that I've lost, etc. At least these 2 lights, and potentially this yellow one, have been taken on with me on vacation, which has meant they've gotten thrown into pools, okay? For kids to dive down and find and play with and stuff. So they have, you know, we're talking the deep end of a pool, tossed in for people to play with. In the evening to be able to find, you know, toss them in, another kid dives down and gets them. It's a fun activity. These have been, I know that these 2 have experienced that. And they've also gotten in water and other situations. They're waterproof. They're extremely durable. With these ones that have multiple settings, the 15 lumens for the 45 hours means that you got a lot of time to be able to find things. I always take additional batteries with me, but buy a simple light that is durable, that has functions that are simple and easy for you to understand. And that means for me, SureFire. And I trust my life to SureFire. If I'm going to have to use a light in a defensive situation to identify whether a person is coming down a hallway to murder me, or whether they're just, maybe the neighbor kid, maybe you have a family that lives near you that has a disabled kid that may not know what they're doing. They may have gotten outside of their bedroom, they may have had a nightmare. This is maybe an adult child, okay? and they come into your home, I don't want to kill that person. I want to be able to identify that person. I don't want to be so afraid that I take somebody's life. Okay, the Second Amendment is your right, but you have a duty to value human life. When you exercise that Second Amendment right, the ability to defend yourselves, right? The ownership of firearms means the ability to use lethal force to defend your life and your family members' lives, or other people that you feel are in danger. Okay, that does not give you the right to be stupid. And if you're going to be using a firearm for self-defense purposes, you need to take the time to invest, whether that's $260, whether that's $60 with a mount, that's going to be a better part of $100. If you're going to have a long gun in your home for self-defense purposes, it better have a light on it. And even if it's a $300 light, $300 now is a lot cheaper than all the court fees and everything you're going to go through, right? Civil and criminal charges and all the lawsuits and things involved if you take the life of a human being that shouldn't have been in your home but was not there for the purpose of killing you. Maybe they were literally there to steal stuff, but they had no lethal intent. And a light is going to be on a weapon. It's going to allow you to identify whether it's a cell phone, whether it's a butcher knife, whether it's a handgun, what they have in their hand. It's going to allow you to control the situation. You shine, 300 lumens into somebody's face, and tell them to get out of your house, and I think many people will get out of your house. I think the vast majority of people will respond in a positive way, and positive meaning that they will do what you tell them when you do that. So it's going to allow you to identify whether they're actually a lethal threat to you. It's also going to allow you to take control of the situation. And so SureFire is the way to go. I think that the Scout lights, whether it's the M600 version or the M300 version, are excellent lights. I look forward to doing a full review on the M300 light when I get this one returned in the other back. I'm also going to be reviewing this Thorntail SBR mount, which attaches to either the M600 or the M300 and allows you just a different mounting option, and I like that mounting option better. So thank you very much for your views and your subscriptions. I know this has been a long video about flashlights, but it's something I'm passionate about because flashlights can save your life, and they can save the life of other people, and they can save you a lot of problems. So thank you very much for your views and your subscriptions. This is the Gear Tester signing off. It's the Gear Tester here, and welcome to my initial impressions video on the SureFire Scout light. This is the M600 version, and I purchased this light to be a weapons mounted light on firearms for home defense purposes. I really like SureFire, and I have purchased a number of their lights over the years, and all of them can continue to run, and they have always worked well for me. And that's why when I was thinking about having a dedicated weapons mounted light for an AR-15 or other defensive rifle, that I thought, you know what, I think I'm going to go with the SureFire Scout light. It's not a cheap light. Costs the better part of $300, around $260 for this light. That is a pretty big investment. But $250 or $260 actually isn't that much money if it prevents you from doing something stupid with your firearm. Right? The reason we put lights on a firearm is so we'd be able to identify targets or identify threats. And that thing that goes bump in the night and that you're groggy and not paying attention, and you get out of bed and you get your weapon, and whatever happens. It would be nice to be able to identify that the person standing in the hallway is not a knife wielding maniac, but that is your grandchild or your child's boyfriend who is there, right? Your daughter's boyfriend who's in the hallway that shouldn't be there. He's trying to sneak out or trying to sneak in, but he is not a lethal threat. You might want to shoot him, but it is unwise and would be wrong to take that person's life, even if they shouldn't be there. But it would also be nice to be able to identify whether that thing in their hand is a knife